Have you ever looked at a YouTube channel and thought, who made this? And who's this for? No, I don't mean the exaggerated who did this. Rather, why certain content creators don't seem to credit or even mention who actually owns the content. Meet Teen Z, a cartoon I saw on the recommended tab, as it had distinctly colorful thumbnails mixed with weird fetish imagery. But digging past the animation and stories themselves, there happens to be a dark history that made me want to create this video. So let's see what we can learn from this mysterious production. Hello, I'm Daft Pina, and this is Teen Z. But what aren't hidden are the guests of this video. So be sure to look out for them while I tell you about today's sponsor, Banggood.com, which, getting your mind out of the gutter, is an Amazon-type shop that you'll hear more about later on. So let's start with the show itself and see what goes on a channel that has thumbnails like this. Oof. Teen Z, or Teen Z, depending on where you are in this crazy world, is a rig-based animated series on YouTube. It follows the exploits of a class in a typical American-based sitcom-style show, but instead of humans, we have monsters. Ooh. Which, as seen in the comment section of my promo of this video, a lot of people compared it to Hazbin Hotel. Do you think this looks like Vivian's style?
No, kinda. Maybe I'm more interested in that zombie girl character. What's her name?
Creepy?
Yeah, she seems... Wait, is this high school or college?
Sometimes it's high school, sometimes it's college in the titles.
Well, these characters have no personalities, and she's dead. She's now canonically 20 with a personal hell of reliving high school. A fate worse than death.
Pans right on the personality bit, as the first thing you'll notice when you click on a video is that there's little to no actual dialogue. And so with that, expressions and grunts will be the majority of what you'll see. Or here. But sometimes you'll see some visualizers to specify what certain characters might be saying, which over time was very annoying because I had to watch every single video for the review. Oh, woe is me to watch cartoons. However, it got a lot easier over time as the newer videos started to reuse previously made animations. But this isn't a new concept, as with the current YouTube algorithm. One of the better ways to push out your channel to the masses is add more length to the video, and to push out lower quality content on a more consistent basis. Pencilmation does this, not lower quality content, rather the constant reuse of animation from previous shorts, which is why them and Teen Z are able to make over 10-minute animations in an impressively short amount of time. But the main contrast to these two shows is Teen Z's use of rigs. Like what I did with my short, having pre-made assets and manipulating them in post is a cheaper and faster way than to animate every single frame, or animate on twos. And for what Teen Z has, it's pretty good and expressive. As it should be, considering that to rely on those models to tell a story, rather than voice actors. Creepy, Pinky, Greenie, Kid, Love Boy, Nerd, Bully, and Mermaid are among the main cast of teens. Now without actual dialogue, how would one know these names? I mean, besides checking the wiki page for it, in which it compares Pinky, the main character, to Hazbin Hotel's character? Maybe that's where that comparison came from. Did I just not bother remembering who they were because I have no actual attachment to the characters, so I just came up with basic words to associate with their drawings? Well, kind of. But no, as sometimes on screen you actually see the characters' names written down, which implies that the zombie character whose name Creepy was called that before she was a zombie? But why would they make the cast feel simplistic? Well, the purpose of Teen Z is not to make a long-lasting series as beloved by many, as it's rather created with the sole purpose of churning out easy-to-make content for the masses. Between the shows Teen Z and Hell of a Boss, which cartoon feels as if it cares that the audience remembers what happened? Could it be the carefully written and dialogue-heavy sex murder show? Or the one where most of the emotion you'll see from a character is laughing?
You suck for life, do ya?
Of course, remembering that even with content like this, there is some sort of core audience to the show, even urging me to give it a chance. However, I'd akin it to Arby's. Sure, it's a franchise seen everywhere, and there must be someone who likes it, and if you do, that's perfectly fine. But no interesting plot structures, themes, allegories, or anything of impact that one like me would want from a cartoon. At the very least, the pretty colors satisfied me in the short term. And that right there would have been the end of the video. As unlike Hell of a Boss, which gave me a lot to work with when covering it, actually in that video it wasn't me, as I was recovering from ribcage surgery, taking these 2 metal bars on my chest, and so I had some friends help me out. But when the full season's released, I will review it, so be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications for when that video releases. But back to Teen Z, it's just rubbish with no substance. That was until I dug deeper. With no credits towards the animators of the show, what could this channel be hiding? Is there more than Teen Z than first expected? And will I ever introduce the guests of the show? All will be answered right now. And with the help of Justin Wang, let's go a little deeper into this rabbit hole right after I promote my merch. Before they're gone by the end of the month that this video releases, be sure to purchase 1 or 2 of these shirts before they're gone forever. Go to crowdmade.com, link in description, to grab them before they're gone. Enough ad reads. Let's get back to the video. You might remember back in the late 2010s these weird children's videos, often depicting Spider-Man, Elsa, and the Joker doing odd things with reused 3D animation. But to compare this to Teen Z does a disservice to the animators, as unlike the procedurally generated animations of yore, Teen Z is made by actual people. Well, whoever they are and wherever they are, as there's very little information about the cartoon itself. But while researching on the website's Behance and ArtStation, I was able to find some behind-the-scenes artwork. Artist Yana Kuznetsova posted some character turnarounds for Teen Z on Behance, which is a website more professional than, say, DeviantArt, kind of like a portfolio thing. I was able to get in contact with them, along with a few others. For Yana, they worked on Teen Z as an illustrator for about 2 months. On the team they worked with, they were Flash animators, character rig people, and scriptwriters. Their programs of choice for drawing was Photoshop, which is interesting as I would have assumed a more vector-based program like Illustrator would have been used, considering the reuse of objects and animation frequently seen in the animation. As for, well, animation, although they noted Flash being used, Moho was also a main staple. Yana themselves were tasked in creating new characters, new clothing, along with character expressions, and new hairstyles. But the interesting thing that they said was once an asset was created, that's it. There was no reason to draw it again, which is why it being rasterized was interesting. You know, for limited scalability. And considering that the series has been going on for over a year, with all the stories they told, there must be a huge enough library to make cartoons to the end of time. Unfortunately, the information dries up there, as a lot of them signed NDAs, even the people who just did tests for them. Until I got in contact with Zach Dude. Originally getting DM'd on Newgrounds, Zach and Lulu ended up emailing each other, in which they offered him a few jobs to try out for. Among them, there was Teen Z. Within the emails, I was able to confirm that Moho was used for rigging, and animating the rigging, and the average payments for their work. For Avocado Couple, between 90 and 125 euros per minute, with 10 minutes per month. And at 12 months a year, that's pretty bad as a freelancer on a consistent project. While on Teen Z, you get an average of 125 euros per minute of animation. Now, of course, for the YouTube platform, this is nothing new. Companies and/or people will just hire freelance, as not only is it overall cheaper, but they don't have to offer a dental plan, healthcare, or job security. Just like Teen Z, this can also be seen with Pencilmation and Storytime channels alike. They could always pay more, but why? And I've heard some rumors here and there that Pencilmation's not a good place to work with, but we'll find out later. Not in the video, I mean like in a different video, so. Well, going back to Teen Z, we have a link right here that'll be the holy grail for Teen Z fans. But what can be in the email? You gotta tell me. Speaking of Zach, they said it had rigs of certain characters, a rough storyboard, and a script of an episode. However, when trying to access it, unfortunately, you need permission. Of course, it's not imperative to this video, but it would have been nice to see, and I could have made my own fan animations with actual voices. Oh hey, what's up? Hey. But this email in of itself actually leads into who makes Teen Z.
Although not advertised on the channel, Teen Z is owned by a company called The Soul Publishing, and definitely not an independent endeavor is what I'd like to tell you. Kind of. I mean, on their website, it doesn't really say anything about Teen Z, unless you dig further, such as this holiday greeting image, and this LinkedIn page where you have to right-click the banner and show the full picture. Hey look, there's Pinky, as well as this ArtStation listing to find new workers. Interesting note that The Soul Publishing is run out of Limassol, Cyprus, a country in the Middle East. Only interesting because all the artists found were either from there or from Russia, but Teen Z advertised itself as an American channel. In fact, most of the people from their LinkedIn page are also from Russia or Cyprus. But why be so confusing about where it is and how it's run? What could they be hiding? Well, The Soul Publishing also owns Brightside, 5 Minute Crafts, Actually Happened, and a bunch of other channels using similar clickbait tactics with those same bright color thumbnails. So far we have a company ran by Russians out of the Middle East that owns clickbait channels like Teen Z. So what? Who cares? Well, me and you should too. Considering between 2018 and 2021, Brightside purchased political advertisements for the US Facebook market. On that note of their Facebook pages for their channels, although advertised as American, most of them are run by people from Cyprus and Russia. Now, noting that these political ads didn't have much reach, that most likely wasn't their purpose. These few ads could have just been a way to test the waters to see what they could spread. And they have done this before, such as the case with 30 shocking tricks advertisers use to make food look delicious. I bring this up as it's something I see make the rounds on Twitter from time to time, but when checking out their actual video, one cannot validate their claims as there's no sources. This extends to 2 specific videos on a now defunct The Soul Publishing channel called Smart Banana. One focusing on the history of Russia and another claiming these countries could collapse within a few years. Although both were deleted, I was able to watch both of them. The first at a glance seems to be the standard history stuff you'd see in a video. Moving graphics and a narrator talking about stuff. But listening carefully, it presents a sanitized and false version of Russia.
The rent of Alaska was over and the country's leader of that time, Nikita Khrushchev, gifted Alaska to the USA. That's when Alaska became the 49th state of the US.
From claiming they gave America Alaska as a gift when we purchased it from them, claiming Putin is a democratically elected president, or even that the Ukraine is part of Russia, you start to realize it's propaganda. If that wasn't enough, at the end of the video you literally see a map of Russia expand into China. So if it wasn't obvious there, I don't know what to tell you. In the countries that may collapse video, they note that the United States and China could both go away. One for having different political views and the other because of pollution. Although the propaganda for Russia is overt and in your face, that doesn't detract from the fact that all countries do this at a certain level in the media. But there's a difference between showing off a car and lying about a car that you never had. Of course, when confronted about these videos, as they actually ended up on MSNBC, The Soul Publishing took down the videos, saying,
"The attention garnered this week around a handful of history-focused videos made us pause and take a closer look at this content. We acknowledge that there were factual mistakes, and we take pride in getting information correct for our audiences. We have taken down the videos in question and are currently reviewing our internal fact-checking process."
So could it just be a rogue channel pushing propaganda for their country? Or perhaps was The Soul Publishing trying to see what they can get away with? We may not know their internal goals, but as for being a large media presence, they sure are good at doing that. Although T-Series has the most subscribers on YouTube, The Soul actually has more reach than Disney and Viacom as of this year, which was an easy task for them, as noting back to the reused animation in Teen Z, this of course accelerated throughout their other channels, reusing as much as they can to push out more, it's content versus substance. With more than 100 channels localized in at least 10 different languages and over 500 videos being made every month, you have to cut corners here and there. When YouTube was contacted about these channels and the impact they might have, they had this to say.
"All content on YouTube is subject to our community guidelines, which we enforce consistently regardless of the channel. We have additional policies for any videos that are showing ads, including against content that mistakes information about the creator, such as where they're located. We have found no evidence of abuse on any of the channels mentioned here. If we find violation of our policies, we take appropriate action, including striking videos, removing ads, or terminating accounts. So for now, it feels as if YouTube doesn't care too much about the sole publishing. As to them, it's not really doing much harm to the platform. Much like when I place a pencil on my cat, it may notice it for a second, but then immediately go back to sleep. So, in summary, what do we have? The sole publishing owns a bunch of YouTube channels, most of which aren't explicitly stated as owned by them, with little to no repercussion to their practice. They are so powerful yet under the radar that not much can be done to stop them, except just to not watch their content. But how? I mean, fully knowing who and what they own is a mystery unless you dig deeper on a per channel basis, such as the fact that the sole publishing is not the last step in the corporate ladder, as it's owned by AdMe. AdMe, a company originating in 2004 from Pavel and Merritt, focusing on digital advertising and content distribution, which from what we've seen, they seem to be doing a good job. But what's the point of me telling you about this if there's nothing we can do about their massive reach on YouTube? Well, we can learn a lot from their business practices when creating a cartoon on YouTube. I mean, I didn't green screen myself in front of a whiteboard for nothing. Oh, I guess I did since I'm back at my set. Oh look, the lights are back on. Unlike gameplay videos and podcasts, animation as a medium takes a lot more hard work on the production side. Even the modern storytime animators with large teams still aren't able to produce as fast as TeenZ. So, with the production, TeenZ, they had to find a way to make it cheap, fast, and effective, so they can churn out as much animation for the current YouTube algorithm that favors frequent videos in a short amount of time. And expanding on this, I briefly spoke with commentator Vosh, as he's a streamer that follows this method.
I take advantage of that, I mean, medium of content creation too, because all of my segments are cut from a live stream, which means that I have to put very, very little effort into the videos themselves. It's just segments cut out. And while that is a pretty quick and easy way of making content, that's what you get for your like Markiplier and Jacksepticeye content as well. They live record it, and then it just gets a little bit of editing before getting sent off to upload. I think there's a pretty big difference between an individual content creator doing that, like it's just a model they use, and a corporation using that cut and paste model for the specific purpose of recycling older stuff. It just feels very different to me. Donkey's problem was with both. He didn't like either of them because he does like prepared content with scripts and, you know, very deliberate editing. But I mean, the monster might be coming for all of us, you know. Even the live streamer types might get gobbled up by the corporate recycling soon.
I'm over here struggling to put up 4 videos a month versus hundreds of other mega channels uploading 30 videos a month. Statistically, I cannot win. I don't even stand a chance.
Going back towards TeenZ and how this animation channel is able to survive, they found ways to simplify and squeeze out use of their animations. Not only are the characters rigged, but once an animation is done, they're free to be reused in newer videos, or even to promote their other channels, such as this scene right here. Which, that clip right there probably would have been a good example of they're owned by the same company. I should have used that before. A consequence of this is that the titles are only there for the algorithm, and not really an accurate representation of the final product. Certain keywords are used not only to be eye-catching to the viewer, but also for the robots on YouTube to better promote them for the right audience. That's why in some titles it says high school and others college, but you have to be careful with what you type, as certain words do demonetize your video. Therefore, avoiding those makes it a lot easier for your video to be pushed to a broader audience. That's because advertisers like family-friendly stuff, which is funny to think why some people say, why are there ads on this video if they have a sponsor? It's because the creators are using space on the big old hard drives of YouTube, and they need to justify you taking up that space. After all, YouTube is a business. Google. For thumbnails, just like how there are bots for words, Google has an imaging software to see what you put in the PNG. Case in point for Tomska, as he proved this specifically on Twitter, as when he changed his thumbnail to something his audience might recognize better, it got a lot more views. But there's a difference between making a more accurate thumbnail and just lying to your audience. Teensy has done this with a lot of their videos, either with drawings that don't appear in the content, or the heavy use of product placement. As for standards and practices on YouTube, if you have an advertisement for a product or service, you have to tick a box saying that there will be one in the video. I note this as there's a lot of American-based products in Teensy. Name brand. No great value. Coca-Cola, Oreos, Doritos, Pringles, M&M's, Nutella and the like are often depicted either in the thumbnails or videos themselves. And with no mark indicating that this is an advertisement, and remembering this is not an independent production of a few people, the fact that a company is using these trademark logos brings into question if they're secretly advertising them, or using it as a way to trick the audience. As what way to make your monster-based high school setting feel more American than to show Coca-Cola and M&M's in their hands whenever you can. Yeah, one can argue that the series technically isn't American-based, as in one scene they use the word honor with a U in a scene. That is a more European spelling. However, the word soccer is also shown, soccer being used in countries that have football as an alternative, but not football. Lastly, we see the use of clocks using a non-American standard way of telling time called military time. However, that varies depending on the episode. And with this mixing and matching small details, it kind of feels like a simulacra of American life. Simulacra being something that replaces reality with its representation, often without real origin, or just something that makes it entirely new. Such is the case as Main Street USA, an American-themed attraction at Disneyland showing off the good old times. But when and where these good old times are is a mystery. It's just feels like America. Just like how Teensy is a fictional hyperbole of stereotypes of American culture. They eat pizza and drink soda, they have awkward situations with bullies and girl crushes, and even work retail jobs just like you. Just like you. Adding on to that is the addition of these American-based products to make it feel more authentic, even if they get a few things wrong here or there. Of course, this could be chopped up to non-American background artists set to make the show, or the fact that Teensy has been translated into many different languages, so perhaps having a vague Western feel appeals to a lot more people? Who's to say? So when you have characters with vague backgrounds, simplistic names, and even personalities, not only is it easier to see yourself in these blank slates, but also a lot easier to get into a world that feels like ours, you never was. And building on top of that, the frequent reuse of animation as well as nondescript titles, while it makes it easier for a newcomer to the series to enjoy it, if you're a longtime fan, every video feels like a mesh of another, with no real start and no real end. You'll start by watching one story, then it's another one. Wait, didn't I watch this one already? What you gain in boosting yourself in the algorithm, you lose in long-lasting personal attachment to the franchise. Of course, that's implying that the company sought to make something as beloved and remembered as Help a Boss, but that most likely isn't the case. Now that we know why certain things are done to create the cartoon, what can we learn from the animation itself? And will I escape this dark cave? One, these things will carry on into the next segment. With the series relying heavily on not only rigged models, but grunts and facial expressions, I'll commend the character designers for their clever work. And not because I'm trapped in Help a Boss. The good visualization of these personalities makes it easier for not only the audience to see themselves or those around them in these moving drawings, but also make it immediately known what they're about. Aside, of course, if it has a good silhouette, that means it's a good design. Comment below if you can recognize this character. But with this series focusing on high school, college, teen adults, and since this is a standard school setting, you'll notice a lot of the same stereotypes in students that every sitcom happens to have. Between the character with upper body strength, a constant frown and fiery hair juxtaposed with the short person with a ruler sticking out of their hair and braces, it is easily determined which one of these people is a bully and which one's a nerd, apart from the actual name of course. Adding on to the good visual design relative to the characters, the fact that the stories can be conveyed with little to no speech means a lot of things. Number one, it was a cost-saving measure, as they most likely recorded a bunch of grunts once to be reused forever. As when localizing the cartoon, not much needs to be changed on the voice end. And this brings up the topic of sub versus dub. Say if you're from a French-speaking country and you want to watch Helluva Boss. Are you going to watch the one with the new voice actors?
J'arrive pas à croire que tu fasses ça après que je t'ai nommé employé du mois.
Or will you watch the original one?
I can't believe you, Moxie, after I made you employee of the month.
But with subtitles. What brings some contention is say if you preferred the voice acting skills of the original team compared to the voice acting of another team, as each person brings their own flair to the character, with different direction depending on the production. Luckily with Teen Z, no debates have to happen, which, come to think of it, was there any? As from the start, the sole purpose of Teen Z was to reuse, reduce, and recycle, including voices, as the main difference you'll see between the languages on screen is just overlaid text to fit the language of the country, for better or worse. On the note of moving drawings to simulate motion to convey emotion to our brains, they did a pretty good job. As for the rigs themselves, they have varied facial expressions, as well as different angles made, making the show more, well, three-dimensional. As three-dimensional as a 2D rig cartoon can be, with some of the smaller aspects being the fact that the hair actually moves when the character moves, which is only a problem when in some cases the rig breaks. Of course, it's not on par with the frame-by-frame animation you'd see in Helluva Boss. However, that's not what the production was aiming for. This cartoon was made in a way to be cost-effective, efficient and on time, so why complain about it not being frame-by-frame when rigging was the better choice overall. This is also considering that the target audience, dumb kids, might not care that the animation isn't as detailed as more traditionally animated adventures. That'd be like if people were complaining about Teen Titans Go compared to the original, but who would do that? Considering the way YouTube is going for majority of the platform, in terms of more content in a shorter time, if you're looking to be part of the rat race of animation, then Teen Z is a show to learn from for the modern era. However, you don't have to follow it to a T. If you're crazy enough to want to give your characters actual depth and personalities, along with voices and actual names, go ahead. Nothing's stopping you. Of course, this isn't to say it's a permanent replacement for animated projects on YouTube, as the spectacle of a traditionally animated passion project is always something I admire, which is why I look forward to the more works of Vivian Madrano. It's always good to support creative endeavors, but when it comes to adult animation, one has to be careful. For example, with Helluva Boss Episode 3, as for a brief period of time it was restricted to 18+, meaning you'd have to sign in to see the video. And this was after the less censored version was approved, but the new one wasn't. Of course, this was later fixed. And so, for your adult cartoon, one must be careful about how much blood, murder, and sexual themes you put into it, as YouTube is mainly advertised as family-friendly, as to appeal to as many advertisers as possible. Just like Nutella in the thumbnail, faking serious injuries? Or just plain fetish fuel for every advertiser to put their ads on? Maybe Teen Z is advertising to 2 different audiences. We sure learned a lot in this video, huh? From the fact that Teen Z is owned by Russians in the Middle East whose channels often send out false information, to seeing useful business tactics from the same media conglomerates in order to make your own content. Perhaps, of course, with a little bit more creative substance. But all in all, are these videos worth watching for fun or any sort of entertainment value? No. No. Really? No. Rather, I'd recommend Teen Z as a teaching tool for animators whom are looking to compete in the current YouTube algorithm, so if you intend to make fictional narrative-driven animation, there's some stuff here you can learn from. Simple to make, easy to budget, and an audience always waiting impatiently for the next upload. Lastly, in the event you get an email or Newgrounds DM? From this company, would I recommend you working for them, knowing full well their business practices? Only if you keep in mind a few things. You're okay with never being credited? Signing an NDA to only showing off your work in a slim chance, and making something so benign and dull that your hard work will be forgotten just as fast as the audience finish watching your animation. But what about Pencilmation? Would I recommend them? I mean, as mentioned before, I'm gonna look into it. And I'll let you help me look into today's sponsor. Good segue. Banggood.com. But what do they sell? They sell everything from clothing, motorbikes, and especially electronics. They sent me the Alto Cube I Play 7T, which is a standard Android tablet that I like to use before I go to sleep. So if you want to check out the tablet or the website in general, please check the description below. Well, I hope you liked the video, even if I can't really express it in my face. And if you loved it, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications. Be sure to purchase one of these t-shirts before they go away by the end of the month, because today's already the 5th of the month. And there's a chance if you rewatch this video, they're gonna be gone. Oh no. Follow me on Twitter, support me on Patreon to fund more videos, and join the Discord, and have some fun. Special thank you to the lovely patrons you see on screen, as well as the guests that appeared in the video. And so until next time, please, don't forget to have fun.